The views and opinions expressed on this station do not reflect the owners, management, staff, clients, or partners. Medical House presents Bermuda's most viewed and listened to talk show. The Daily Hour starts now.
It's Monday, the 26th day of October. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman, along with Carla Zool. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. If you haven't already, share the link, start a watch party, get the conversation out there to your network. We have another good one for you today. We're going to start the week off with I would say, another important conversation about the job statistics released last week by the Bermuda Department of Stats on their Twitter page, probably throughout their social media. The daily play is a who said it, so Carla will be guessing a famous quote by a famous person. I hate the term famous, but you know what we're getting at. Before we even get into that, obviously we had such a tragic weekend in Bermuda. We did have a impromptu sound off, Charlene and myself, yesterday, and on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked it out, you can go on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, folks. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, The Daily Hour, and subscribe. We'll share the link with you throughout this as much as we can. If you don't have it, we'll do that for you. But such tragic events and very important conversations. One of the things that I've noticed is everyone, says the same thing after all these incidents, and it's like, oh, we have the same conversations after every one. We all know what the issues are. We need to stop talking about them on surface level. This is not true, because if we did, I don't think we'd be going in circles. I don't think anyone, believe it or not, likes going in circles with conversations. I do think that the root cause beyond the surface needs to be addressed. I think the challenge is, how do we go about addressing it? One of the things that we brought up yesterday was, single parents that have to go and work, and so children are left raising themselves, things of that nature. And I want to touch on that, but before we get into the conversation, Delray Rollins, actually one of Bermuda's most talented athletes outside of Bermuda, was on Pure Sports Radio last night, and quite the gentleman, obviously playing the gentleman's game, cricket. And if you haven't seen that, make sure you go to the Full 100 Radio YouTube page and check Delray out. It was quite an amazing conversation with Larry Marshall Jr. Had some technical difficulties, so I jumped in with my expert sports knowledge and just had to do my thing. Just because I dumped Manchester United doesn't mean I'm still not a sports lover. But good conversation. Check that out if you have a chance. But getting back to the working of two jobs, when I was younger, Carla, I always had two jobs, like teenager right into young adulthood. Now, there's a big difference, in my opinion, between having two jobs and multiple incomes, right? I'm all for multiple incomes. What I'm not for is two jobs, because at the end of the day, there was a time where we thought that, oh, having two jobs made you responsible, made you a hustler, made you a great person because you had income. Meanwhile, you have people working one job, making 3-4 times the amount of money you're making, killing yourself for two jobs while missing out on family time. I want to touch on family time. Family time is the time that, as Carla mentioned yesterday, she gets to spend with her children whether they're playing football. Or Carla says, well, I'm going to say it. She doesn't mind. She told me it's for you, your family. Last week when she said she's taking her children out, for a day, they went somewhere, I don't know where, but she said, oh, she's going to spend some time with her children. That's family time. We need to stop celebrating the idea of, I work two jobs and I have two jobs. No, nah. We need to stop celebrating the idea that, oh, I work 7 days a week, I have a weekend job. We have been sold the idea that mainly us us that having multiple jobs is a good thing, killing ourselves, working our lives away, and not enjoying life. I used to think like this. I remember one summer back from school, I was working 70 hours a week, minimum, 3 different jobs. That's no way to live. And that's no way to enjoy your family and raise your family and friends and just enjoy the air, the everything that you're working so hard to have. We've got to get rid of that stuff. Because when we talk about the root causes of what leads to the violence that we experience today, we don't think about this very stuff that we've been taught and told was good, like having 2 jobs.
I was listening to the show yesterday, and maybe I'm in another world, but when did having 2 jobs become a badge of honor? I did it out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And I resented it because I had to do it out of necessity. So I guess that's the difference when it's a choice versus being forced upon you. But it came to a point where, especially having Black boys, I have a daughter as well, but having Black boys, I was just like, I can't afford the social side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, thankfully, being media based, I can work from within the house. But even with that was taking a toll, because the children were like, we swear you love your computer more than you love us, because I was always on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that after the show yesterday, I was on Twitter, and one young lady really resonated with me because she made me think of the show. And she said, where did our young men stop loving each other? What is the cause for all of this hatred? And I was like, I wish you was watching the show, because it tied right into what we were saying, and you saying that with it being repetitive. But is it, if these problems keep perpetuated?
Mm-hmm.
And listening to you and Sherry yesterday, I was doing some deep digging, and I was like, what is the cause?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can all say it's this and this and this, but even if we delve into that, it's still something deeper. Mm-hmm. Now, my answer, some people may not like, a factor, I think, but it's really scary, especially at my eldest is 14, my eldest son. And like I said, I've said it before, no one's going to tell me that his lifespan is only supposed to be 24, 25, if that scares me.
No, valid points, Carla. And I want to go back to the first thing you said. When did working 2 jobs become a badge of honor? Right? I mean, I remember working summer jobs in Bermuda. And you know, at particular hotels, and you're wondering, why is this hotel worker who was here during the day still here? Man, I have a house to pay for. This is what it takes to, and I'm like, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Something is wrong with the foundation of our society. When you believe you have to work like this, your eyes are so blood red shut, you look drunk or high, but you're just tired. That's not how any functioning great society that benefits people should look. And so now let me be very clear, all things honest. My mother, she loves working 2 jobs. She also has her side thing. And I think it was at one point necessity, then it just became a thing of keeping busy. Right? But the idea that people have to put themselves in those situations, and it takes them away from the very thing that is the rock of any society. That's what we need to be addressing. So when these shootings and these murders continue to happen in our community, Brother Eugene and Clinton, they speak about it. Mark Bean speaks about it, the family unit, right? We have to take this all into consideration. And we have to unlearn everything we've been taught about hard work and really start to think what means more to us in the long run. And as a government, as a society, charities, organizations, they have a role to play as well. But we can't look at this on the surface and just think, oh, the bad parents. And, some parents feel they don't have a choice in the matter. People, we love, I see criticism all the time about parents not being at PTA meetings, right? Well, they can't be at a PTA meeting if they're at their second or third job. Well, I saw that person out partying. Well, maybe the parties they're at don't take place at the same time as their second job and the PTA meeting. Let's go to some comments. Jackie Grillo says, I used to think having 3 to 5 jobs made my parents proud. All well and good when you're young, but I wouldn't do it now. Love it, Jamel. Absolutely, Jackie. Absolutely. I used to think the same. I used to think, carry it, like Carla said, as a badge of honor. Like, I'm busy. If I'm not somewhere making it, I'm spending it. Lisa James says, parents working so hard, they have no time to raise their children. This is why so many are lacking parental attachments and are disconnected to life. Like, I agree.
Totally agree.
Jody Eve Carla.
Who was my neighbor growing up. My sisters and I were raised in a single parent home and were blessed to have my mom present at everything, as she only had to work one job. And yeah, she was to this day.
That's great. Tara Simmons says, it's not fun working 2 jobs or more. You have no life and your children miss out at times. I think things that are not taken into consideration. Elizabeth Carla.
Family time is so important to me. Eating dinner together, spending weekends, doing activities together. I could never give up my weekends for a job. And let me share this with Leah's saying that, because sometimes parents are there, but they're not present. And I'll give you an example. Me and my daughter, she's 19 now. We were having such a good giggle about it, but she was so angry at me. When I used to have Today in Bermuda, she wanted to see this movie, Straight Outta Compton. So I took her to the movies, her and I pulled out my laptop and I was writing a story in the movie. And she was like, lady, are you serious? And I'm like, look, I'm meeting a deadline. You wanted to come to the movie. She was like, no, I wanted to come to the movie with you. And she was pissed. And I realized, like, hey, I have to prioritize this time. And I used to always say to them, but I'm doing this for you. And she was like, yeah, but you're not her in the moment. You're in that computer. So now if they say to me, mama, ... and granted, they're getting older, so they don't say it as often, computer shut. Because I know it means more for me to be present than for me just to be there.
Indeed. No, and that's a good point. I've been accused of not being present when it's family time and quiet time and quality time. So I get it. I agree with your daughter. Amanda Kelly says, it's a mindset. What are we willing to sacrifice? Craig Luby, the system does not care. And again, Mr. Luby, I don't disagree with you, but a system can only function with a functional people, right? So if everyone said that they're not working a second job, is it going to be that easy for the system to function? For those just tuning in, we will be discussing the recent job statistics in Bermuda, which were, I don't think, surprising to anyone, but I think we want to find solutions to them. But right now we're having a conversation, obviously, with a tragic event over the weekend, double shooting, and then stabbing, which led to the death of a young man. And people, we had a conversation on our YouTube channel yesterday about addressing this. How do we fix this issue? And I think often we always get stuck talking on the surface. I think Sherry and I touched on something yesterday about, are we becoming the United States and the way that they respond to gun violence? And you see thoughts and prayers. That was something that we brought up. But one of the things that we're focusing on here is, family time. Like it comes back to the family. And for so long, I think people, and it's not even necessarily, it's not even just Black people, but it's people that are in a certain bracket in terms of, their salaries. They have to go out and get a second job. And let me just be very clear. This is not a single parent issue either. There are plenty of families with husband and wife, or wife and wife, husband and husband, that are working multiple jobs. This problem is huge. And so when I think about young people having to raise themselves, this is a sad issue. And these are the components that contribute to the problems that we face.
I knew we got to get to news. It's global though, because I had a job out here and I had to be, it was about 25 minutes away and they expected me to be there at 8 o'clock. And the boys then were maybe 11 and 7 or 8. And I was like, I can't come that early. I have my children. Let me at least get them to school. And they used to complain. I quit. 1 month I worked there and I quit. I've never worked a job that short, but I told them my children come first and they couldn't understand that. I was like, why would I leave my 11-year-old to get my 7-year-old ready for school and to school? That's crazy to me.
I think the tables are going to turn. And I think it's people just need to understand that as much as you need employment and income to survive, those companies, for the most part, although I think a lot of companies are moving away from humans, they still need people to function. Rather, they need people. So even if you're the consumer and not the employee, they need people. So keep that in mind. One more comment before we go to the news. Dr. Maria Siemens says, safely, our culture/priorities have changed, hence society has changed. Yes, agreed. Let's go to the news, and then we'll be back with our daily focus, the conversation for today, the job statistics. Bermudians look like they're getting paid less than non-Bermudians. Quite the conversation. We touched on something similar a couple of weeks ago as we spoke about, do Bermudians deserve, should they take that preferential treatment when it comes to jobs? So should be interesting. Stick with us.
Shortly before 2 a.m. Sunday, police received a report of a stabbing incident near the junction of Hook and Ladder Lane and Somerset Road in Sandys. Officers responding to the call found a 28-year-old man had been stabbed in the chest and was in and out of consciousness. The officers administered first aid until the arrival of emergency services. The injured man was transported to King Edward VII Memorial Hospital for treatment to his injuries. However, he succumbed to those injuries and was pronounced dead by an on-call physician a short time later. The Daily Hour extends its deepest condolences to the departed's family and loved ones. Meanwhile, a 20-year-old man with a stab wound to his abdomen arrived at the hospital via a private vehicle. It is believed that both men were injured during the same incident. Meanwhile, police are investigating a shooting on Friday night, which left 2 men in their 20s with multiple injuries. According to police, a lone gunman was responsible for the shooting, which happened in Pembroke Park around 9:15. He's being described as approximately 5 foot 8 inches tall, of slim to medium build, and riding a dark-colored motorcycle east on St. John's Road just after the shots were fired. The suspect was wearing a dark helmet, dark trousers, and a light-colored jacket. Anyone with information pertaining to either of the incidents are being asked to call Detective Inspector Kenton Trutt on 717-2345 or on the main police number 295-0011. or the independent and confidential Crime Stoppers number 800-8477. Via a press release, the Free Democratic Movement Cheryl Packwood condemns the Premier's decision to appoint MP Wayne Keynes as the chairman of the Bermuda Tourism Authority, saying, quote, "The BTA is our foremost face with the global community, both public and private. How on earth will these international companies and foreign governments trust us if we appoint people who are known for their disregard of women, both here and abroad? How will they respect us if we appoint people who cannot follow rules and laws? Negotiating contracts and doing business with other countries could become potentially shady business. I suppose a Jacinda Ardern or Angela Merkel might just outright refuse. After all, do they really need us or do we need them?" End quote. And that was Cheryl Packwood of the Free Democratic Movement. Jamal, do you know what today is? There's one thing that represents October more than anything else, and no, it's not Halloween.
Pumpkin or something?
Yes, the pumpkin. Ugh. So let's learn a little more about the pumpkin in honor of Pumpkin Day, starting with what the word pumpkin means. It's pretty simple, as it comes from the Greek word papon, or large melon, but it didn't go straight to the pumpkin. First, it was pom-pom to the French, and then pompillon to the British. It was the Americans who finally changed the word to its present pumpkin, and so it's been ever since. Pumpkin Day, dedicated to Elizabeth, is a great opportunity to add this delicious squash into your diet, whether it's in the form of a traditional pumpkin pie, the one pumpkin product I like, or a rich and savory pumpkin soup, or whatever you choose, or however you choose to eat it. Just enjoy it. Turning to weather, Bermuda will be mostly cloudy with showers with a high of 78. Fort Lauderdale in Florida will see a high of 83, and it will be 51 in Manchester, UK. Don't forget, Medical House is your number one source of PPE supplies, masks, face shields, disinfectants, sanitizers, gloves, gowns, no-touch thermometers, and so much more at the lowest prices. Visit Medical House today at 22 Millreach Lane in Pembroke. And on a programming note, don't forget it's Monday, which means it's Reggae Mondays all day long on the 4100 radio. Don't miss the mix with Juggle and Jason from noon to 3 p.m. Bermuda time. That's your Daily Hour news break.
First off, y'all don't know, I'm a pumpkin freak. My pumpkin sister Elizabeth, yes, happy Pumpkin Day to you. Yes, I did forget to give myself an air horn. But thank you for this reminder. I will be going to the store immediately following this show to indulge. I was fasting this weekend, so I do enjoy a little pumpkin pie. I mean, yes, the whole pie to myself.
You got all happy. You like pumpkin that much?
You better ask somebody.
Ooh, I only like pumpkin pie. That is it.
Pumpkin muffins, pumpkin donut, pumpkin this, pumpkin. What is wrong with you, Carla?
Trauma.
I came to the U.S. They talking about sweet potato pie. You better get some pumpkin up in it. But anyway, we got some. Got to go to the pay some bills. Look, you got me all pumpkined up. You got me pumpkined up. We'll be right back for the Daily Focus conversation. We're talking job statistics. Carla getting me messed up, folks.
Good day, Medical House Doris speaking. Can I help you?
Medical House is Bermuda's leading one-stop shop for healthcare. Bermuda's top doctors, dentists, care homes, and the hospital choose Medical House for a wide range of products.
Anything that we ask them to do, they come through.
These same professional quality products are available to you for home healthcare.
If we can use them, we definitely do so.
Medical House is best known for its uniforms and footwear. It also has restaurant uniforms that stand up to even the toughest shifts. If you're on your feet all day, Medical House has comfortable and stylish shoes that are also durable and easy to clean. Everyone needs some help cleaning up, and Medical House has got it. Leading-edge janitorial, facility, and maintenance supplies are all here. Medical House is on Millreach Lane in Pembroke, where there's private parking right outside the door. Call or visit Medical House today.
Humans have been harvesting the tuna fish for over 2,000 years, probably first from the Mediterranean, casting nets from the shore. The ever-increasing demand for tuna reached its highest point in the early 1950s, and the catch statistics reflected a saddening downward turn in the tuna population. Modern seafood companies like Crown Prince have responded by driving initiatives which increase sustainability of the schools of one of the world's favorite fish. Try Crown Prince albacore tuna in water. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Welcome back to the big show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House and Lindo's. Carla Zool, myself, Jamal Hartman. Don't forget, you can catch us on Channel 82, our good friends at Crimson Multimedia, making that happen. One Communications, also throughout social media, the Daily Hour and the 4100 Radio on Facebook, YouTube, and then Twitter and Twitch from the Daily Hour. Ensure that you go to our YouTube page, the Daily Hour YouTube page, and subscribe so you can I know some people were hitting me up and saying, oh, I didn't know you guys were going live yesterday. Well, it was impromptu. And so if you want to know when we're going live and join those conversations like others, just make sure you subscribe to the Daily Hour YouTube page. If you don't know the link, let us know. We'll ensure that we put it down as part of this show. But we have to continue the conversation today about the jobs. You saw the job statistics, Carla, because I saw you on Twitter going off, right?
I was not going off, Jamal. I've changed.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway.
I did see it. We'll get in. I did see the salaries. It was quite disappointing.
Well, let's bring it up. For those who are not familiar, Department of Stats, Bermuda Stats at Twitter, on Twitter, they released some things last week. So that's what we're going to discuss, and really want the feedback. I mean, is anyone surprised by what you saw? And let's just bring it up real quickly. So we see right here I guess the median annual gross income for 2019. So this is last year, folks. This is not a long time ago. This is last year. You look at the difference between whites and blacks and then mixed up. Does this surprise you or concern you? Carla, I know it annoyed you, right?
This wasn't the one that annoyed me, but we'll talk about this one. Does it surprise me, being honest? No.
Mm-hmm.
The mixed other, I found interesting, to be honest, because I would have thought it would have been higher than blacks. And my reasoning, this is just my opinion, is because blacks, that I consider myself black as a chocolate hued woman, and I find that we're at the bottom of the colorism totem pole. But then I think about, pardon?
You said as a what?
As a darker skinned chocolate woman, I consider myself on the lower end of the hierarchy as such.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, not to take away from what you're saying. I just didn't understand what you
Oh, no, meaning dark skin versus light skin. And to me, in Bermuda, in other countries, light-skinned people seem to be regarded higher. Okay, so with mixed other, but then I thought about, and I say this with love, like for example, Portuguese, who people traditionally in Bermuda have looked down upon, and so could it be that? But this does not surprise me at all, and I'm interested to see who or what is going to try to justify these statistics, because it's quite clear that there's disparity. You can't miss it.
Yeah, well, I guess I want more clarity from the stats department as to who represents the mixed / other. And the reason I want clarity for that is because I can sit here and make assumptions that it's people coming into Bermuda and doing certain jobs that are from certain places outside of Bermuda, like certain regions. So with that said, because I don't know what mixed and other represents, I just want to stick to white and black. And when you look at that gap, that's not a tiny gap. There's a big difference between $58,260 and $84,068. That's a huge gap. And so I guess I would like to speak to HR reps. And it goes back to what I stated last week. I'm going to use the Lady Isley that's finally, thankfully, leaving the BTA, who was making $400,000, right? And you had Henberry and Kevin Dallas. While I believe Bermudians should be in those positions, particularly black qualified Bermudians, I hope that this government and this new board does not shortchange these people. I hope that they don't shortchange them, because this is how we get those situations right here. Let's go to a few comments. Terry Too Cool says, I'm still beside myself that Bermudians are the lowest paid as a collective. Yeah, we're going to get to the Bermudian part too. The stats are not surprising, but it completely and utterly said. Craig Luby, this has been happening for generations. Terry Too Cool, the racial income gap is not surprising. It's frustrating. Nicole Brockington says, definitely not surprised. This is the norm in the reinsurance industry. All right, so definitely want to get someone from the reinsurance industry on to discuss this at some point. It's challenging. Let's go to Dawn's comment before we go on. The 84K sometimes does not include the extra benefits of housing allowance and utilities some companies offer. Well, I thank you for bringing that, because I wanted I wanted to touch on that. I remember a couple of weeks ago, or last week, we discussed that, like whether some jobs include the additional benefits. like housing allowances and so on. No, again, it's been said that that was included, and I can only use what I know in certain other people like the BTA. Well, when you hire this Bermudian to do these jobs, these C-level suite jobs, don't shortchange them. Take everything into consideration. I really hope that's not, because I'm going to be watching that very closely. The salary and everything's going to be public, right? And if it's not, then we will all of us watching today, all the thousands or whoever's, how many, we'll make a petty request together to get that information. But this is not something that should be shared and we should be silent about. It's not. Jan Powell, Carla.
It doesn't surprise me because most civil servants are Black. That's a large number of our community.
Michael D. Daniel says Bermudians are doing it to Bermudians in many cases. Well, I mean, I don't have exact evidence, but that would not surprise me. I've been in positions where Black Bermudians have helped Massa do things to other Black Bermudians. So that's not surprising when you have people working against their own interest and don't understand it. Shouting Eugene Fox too, the data can be misleading because it doesn't take into considerations the various and types of jobs and their pay ranges. I agree. But I don't think it's necessarily misleading in that respect. I think it actually tells you that we need to dig deeper. And you know me, when it comes to numbers and data, I like to go deeper beyond the surface on what's reported. But your point doesn't take away from it, because if you go deeper into the various types of jobs, then why are Black people more likely to do certain jobs versus white people? Because I'm sure that's what the data will show. Go ahead, Carly Elizabeth.
So their whole salary is practically play money with all the extra benefits.
Yeah. In many cases, it is.
But what do you say to someone, because someone is watching and they're saying, well, it's not our fault that we get higher education, that we went to school when they didn't?
Well, no, that I don't even think that plays a role, though. I mean, we saw a situation earlier this summer where at a local hotel, a young lady had no formal education and she had moved up through the ranks versus a Bermudian who was on Twitter saying she was at that same company doing a job and didn't get any of that. So I don't even think it's higher education. When you look at, I'll never forget, I was working at a local insurance company in Bermuda, and my goal was to go away to school. And one of the big cheeses, and he's been a big cheese at many insurance companies, he's a very influential Portuguese man in Bermuda. He always said to me, how much money you think I make? And he will go down. And I was in disbelief at how much he told me. He said, I never spent a day on a college campus. So I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think if anything, people bring it up all the time, and I don't necessarily have an issue with it. Nepotism.
I bring it up all the time.
What's that?
I said, we're always talking about it.
What, nepotism?
Yes, because it drives me crazy.
Yeah, but I think Mark Bean said it when we launched this station. I think Mark Bean said it best. I mean, if we have a problem with people hiring their children and giving their children opportunities, then we just need to go and do the same thing. So, I mean, it's not necessarily fair, but when they don't provide us the opportunities, then we need to find it within ourselves to go create our own. But that's on us and our community and society as to, I'll give a perfect example. If we all have such an issue with a certain restaurant, right? No, I'm not going to use restaurant. If we have an issue with a hotel, right? And someone, Carla and Jamal, open up CNJ's hotel. We know this in Bermuda, that there are certain people who will still go to that hotel who they know don't want them there over supporting CNJ's hotel. We know that. No, instead of saying, you know what, I don't like CNJ, the owners, but let me see if I can, I have a restaurant. Let me see if they can provide me space to have a restaurant in their hotel. Let me see if they can provide me retail space to sell my shirts or stuff like that. We have not understood how to work together like that as a community, like others have.
Understood or just don't care?
I think a combination of both. Let's get to some comments. Carla, go.
Some corporate expats are spouses, and both are given housing benefits by each of their companies, so they can receive double and can pocket extra.
Jamaica Smith says, I'll be interested to know what type of jobs are tied to these incomes for each race group of, and let me just be all things clear. I usually go directly to the sources to ask people to join us to have these conversations. So before this was released, I did reach out to the Department of Statistics a couple weeks ago. Well, not them directly. I reached out to government. Government folks were responsive and have not been responding. I don't know, some reason people just don't want to come on the show because Carla asks us all these ridiculously hard questions that might bring out truth, but they have not responded. So I'll be sending Ms. Nia Talbot and Aderonke another email today just to figure out why they're not responding. And it's not about putting them on the spot, but this is a public show for the people. So the least you can do is respectfully let us know if we can have a conversation with the people with more in-depth knowledge. So Aderonke, Nia Talbot, if you know them, please let them know we're looking for responses so that we can have levels to this conversation. All right. Deborah Leah Joe Bell, whites are for the most part the CEOs, etc. Indeed. Renee Simmons says, it's no surprise, but what's even worse is the mobility of the black male in reinsurance industry. It is far more likely to promote a black female in this industry in comparison to a black male. Oh, I've noticed that. I think I may have mentioned something like that in the past. Sheldon, Eugene Fox, but if a larger percentage of people on the lower end of the spectrum is essentially skewed the numbers. Yes, I agree. Cherie Dill says, I don't believe education is the driver here. Many Bermudians, black Bermudians, are well educated, experienced, and capable, yet are still, and that's why I said I don't think it's formal education. I don't think formal education has anything to do with this. I think that is pretty much null and void. I think this has a lot to do with nepotism. It has a lot to do with trust. I mean, how many times, and this happens almost on a weekly basis, if I decide to go on one of the local news outlets online, I see another white man or white woman promote it, or now new CEO or new this, new that. People I've never heard of. You wonder, who are they? Nobody I ever know is in these spaces. And I know quite a bit of intelligent people, a couple hundred watching this show right now. I'd like to celebrate them in the same manner, Elizabeth Carla.
Everyone has a degree nowadays. Is more to it now. Nepotism is the biggest factor.
Indeed.
Let me share this quick story with you about nepotism.
Go ahead. We know that the CNJ example, yet we still don't support circulating our dollar is important. Agreed. Go ahead, Carla.
So way back when I was in my early 20s, and someone came across my name and whatever, they invited me in for an interview. Mm-hmm. And I go in, and it's a white man, and he's looking at me so strangely. And he was like, oh, he thought I was white because my last name is Zhu, because Zhu is actually a predominantly white name historically. And the whole vibe changed once I walked in the room, because this was before social media and all of that. And he thought I was a white woman. Did I get the job that he called me in to interview with? Nope.
Yeah, I mean, that like I said a couple of weeks ago, we've had that conversation. We did a project on that when I was in graduate school. So it definitely happens. It's the name thing. It's incredibly sad and unfortunate, but yeah, until we find a way to build industry, control industry, these are the problems we're going to face. I want to go back to a comment. It was saying that the CEOs are mainly white, right? And that comment to me is very interesting because Deborah Leah Joe Bell says whites are for the most part the CEOs, etc. Even if the whites are not the CEO, even if it's a black CEO, I mean, there are people that are black that are not there for black people. Let's be honest. People, one of the excuses you used to hear is, well, look, I have a mortgage to pay. Things like that supersede one's ability to look out for people who look like them or sound like them. So it's a lot to it. This is another one right here, the median gross annual income. Again, on the surface, this is a problem. And as you look at the Bermudian and the non-Bermudian spouse of Bermudian and other non-Bermudian, I think it's key, and even the permanent resident certificate holder, without knowing all the jobs, which again, if we have someone from the Department of Statistics, we can actually delve deeper into this. But what's not probably being included is the allowances and benefits that may come with this stuff. So the question then is, why is this the case?
See, this was the one that riled me, and here's why. Bermudian 6112, non-Bermudian spouse of Bermudian 73220. You've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. The problem with Bermuda, in my opinion, is that it's always better when it comes from somewhere else. And so as a Bermudian, I marry you, Jamal, as a non-Bermudian, and you're valued more than me in my own country. That really irritates me. It's like the message is so clear. And that's what my tweet said. Bermudians are not valued. And then I guess because the PRC is as close as you can get to a born Bermudian as such, they're down the bottom with us too. It's really ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning. And you want to have these conversations to find out why. HR departments have to answer for this, not just CEOs. Because the HR, they're fronting the organization. You know, when you think of the term human resources, it's supposed to be about the humans, not the company, right? So where is the human element in this? These people would know that, okay, well, we had a non-Bermudian and paid them 80, but we can pay a Bermudian much less. I gave an example of a certain CEO in Bermuda. I'm like, you know, to satisfy this person's ego, they knew this person was probably happy to have the title. And that's another thing we need to get to. Are Bermudians more happy to have the titles than to pay, right? Because some people, you know, think this prestige and they're like, oh yeah, I'm making $150,000. You know, I'm a VP of such and such. But yet the person that you've replaced or who replaces you is making triple your salary, probably a lesser title. Yeah. So it's so much to it. But I would love to delve deeper into these numbers to see what are these jobs, because when we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, I said Bermuda's situation is very unique in my opinion. It's on the top end and bottom end. So it's not just the top jobs like in the international business and reinsurance industries that are not going to Bermudians. It's also some of the lower jobs, right? That like you're looking at and they're saying, well, Bermudians didn't want to do them. So there's two different levels to this on both ends of the table. Rashida Godwin says, your CNJ example is the template we need to use to give our children opportunities. Is our success based on climbing up the ladder in these white spaces? If so, what do we expect and how far will we get? Because remember, it's their space, it's not ours. And that's why I gave the example, Rashida. I agree with you. I agree that if this is indeed how things are being done, then we need to create our own spaces. And I think what happens, and it's been said time and time again on this show, is that we are afraid to create our own spaces because our own spaces don't come with guaranteed health insurance and vacation time. It's a risk. It's a risk to create our own spaces. I just feel like, especially in the Black community in Bermuda, we possess so much intellectual capital. We do. In many spaces. It's about how we go about using it. Craig Luby says only certain Bermudians are valued in Bermuda. Raquel Wainwright says Bermuda, the land of opportunity for everyone else except Bermudians. Cherie Dill says also because compensation is confidential. Oh yes, remember we had that conversation. Whether we agree, whether it should be. Many locals aren't aware of the extent of the disparities and what's being offered to non-Bermudians. Thus, they are more likely to accept less. In addition, Bermudians are less sought after for higher level roles. Oh, yes, Madam Cherie, that is important to remember, folks. We had that conversation, what was it, in the summer, about whether or not we agree that salaries should be confidential. Like, who does it benefit for a salary to be confidential? Think about it. It actually helps the company to do things like discriminate. Kathy Bromby, Carla.
Human Resources invites Bermudians in to interview for a job in order for them to say that they interviewed Bermudians to sign papers for immigration, then hire a foreigner. Yep, that's been done.
Yeah. James Birch says, "Are employee-owned businesses part of the solution?" I believe in employee-owned businesses. I believe in giving people a sense of ownership. Is it a part of the solution? Yeah, building and controlling the industry. I do agree. Is it the only solution? Probably not. Carla, Deborah Lee, or Joe Bell?
I had an expat boss who admitted that he read a how-to book and in his interview said he had all the skills for the job and got it based on him being a foreigner. Facts, they are valued more than Bermudians. And see, I made that face not at her statement, but what it contained. Not at her, but what it contained. But I was gonna say before that, why are we as Bermudians less valued? That, I guess, is an answer we probably never truly receive. But why are Bermudians, regardless, black, white, green, or purple, why are we disregarded in our own country?
So, let's ask the question though: are we disagree? Are we treated worse off? Do we not value ourselves? Are we not studied enough to understand how to negotiate better? Are we bad employees? There are so many questions to ask. Like, is it like, when you go to, let's use the US. And I think I've given this example before. One of my wife's cousins' husbands, British, I'm Bermudian. And we spoke over dinner one time at how our accents actually give us an advantage. So Bermudians possibly could benefit. I remember when I was in college and one of the professors said to me, "Man, you do great in media. An accent like yours and the hustle." So I've benefited from it outside of Bermuda. And I think when you look at the US and you see groups like ADOS and so on, and they look at immigrant black people, you see a lot of black immigrants in the US that have built their communities per se. They've come here, opened restaurants and clothing stores and things for their community. Is it a thing where wherever you are, whoever the worst or local is going to be less likely to do that? These are the questions and the conversations we probably need to have. I don't know. Andrea, Carla.
Hopefully we see a change with the new proposed immigration laws and new minister in place.
Renee Sherilyn Simmons, exactly, this is true, and immigration need more teeth, more power in their inspectors. Patty Woolridge says, sadly, many Bermudians like titles rather than earn the equitable salaries. Nicole Walker, Carla.
It will be interesting to see stats from 2021, given the current rate of unemployment due to the pandemic. When desperate for a job, the candidate may not want to rock the boat and negotiate a better compensation package.
Indeed. Oh yeah, that's going to be interesting because it's been a lot of job loss, right? Let's just go to the gender real fast. This is interesting. And this is where I go back to shouting Eugene Fox too. The female and the male. I need more information, a lot more information to kind of understand this. Because, go ahead, Carl.
No, I'm sorry. I think it needs to be broken down even further because I don't buy into this. If we did it by race, we'd see a different outcome. So again, we look forward to having someone from the Department of Statistics on the show to speak a bit deeper, go in more detail about this. This is interesting. I mean, it makes sense, but we need to understand the types of jobs. We need to understand the races. And also, there was the age, and let's touch on the age as well. We saw the age, the salary based on age. This was, I guess, consistent with what I think many people would probably understand. I don't think there's any surprises here either. No, not really.
I would like to see industry as well. I would like to see an industry breakdown, and within those industry breakdowns, I want to see the racial, Bermudian, non-Bermudian, age, and gender. So there's a lot more to this. And this is why I tell people when it comes to data and statistics, on the surface, we have to go deeper than that. There's so many questions that all of this leads to. So hopefully we can have, take this conversation, carry it on and have the experts in with us to really get information that we can use to fix the situation. So it's not like we're going to use the data and just sit back, complain and moan about it. No, we look at this information. We say, you know what? This hasn't worked for our community. No, this is what can work for our community. That's what we need to do. But one of the things we have to do, and like I said in the CNJ example, we have to, let me give you an example. So when I worked in tourism, I would go to Bermuda all the time. Sometimes I would bring guests down there on fam trips. And one of the things I tried to do, because we were always pushed to certain restaurants in certain places, I would always try to go to like a Black restaurant or Black spaces. This is not to discredit others, but it's more like we don't get those opportunities. To use Rashida Godwin, I remember like she had just purchased her buses for Titan Tours, Titan Express, and I went and I was probably she'll tell you the first person in tourism to meet with her, because I'm like, no, she needs the same opportunities. And now look at her, she's thriving, right? And so I'm all about us growing, and the only way we're gonna grow and fix these problems is if we support one another. And then when we support one another, opportunities will grow and come out of that for each other. Rick Olson says in IB, remote workers will become more commonplace for many to avoid local restrictions. I don't disagree. I see it happening. Although I think Craig Simmons thought differently when he was on, said that Bermuda's a perfect place to come. I do kind of agree with Mr. Olson in regards to that. Charles Jeffers too said, and to think these are just salaries and not total compensation, which could include housing and car loans. Yes, we discussed that earlier, Charles. That's important. That's important. And that's why I said in regards to like when you look at these positions that were held by non-Bermudians, and again, tourism is the easiest one to focus on because it's what I know. I just hope they don't shortchange whatever Bermudians that they decide to place in these positions. Because if you give these people like 300 to 400,000 just in salary and bonus, and then probably housing as well, then don't shortchange the Bermudian by trying to pay them less. Don't do that. That's not cool. Carla, are you ready for the daily play?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what we're going to do, folks, we're going to take a quick break, right? And then we'll be back with the daily play.
Medical House presents The Daily Hour, Bermuda's most viewed and listened to talk show. Join the crew live weekdays at noon in the UK, 8 a.m. in Bermuda, and 7 a.m. U.S. Eastern Standard Time as they host experts to discuss various hot topics of the day. The Daily Hour is engaging.
What you do is you stand there and you look confused, and they say, you want to play? And you're like,
Entertaining.
What the are you?
Informative.
Having a growth mindset means that you're open to feedback. You're open to continuously learning.
And everything else you didn't know you needed.
Hello, it's me. I've been wondering. That makes me burst out laughing every time.
Yeah, your singing would do that, right? This is thanks again to Medical House Lindo's Channel 82 for allowing us to do this with you every day. It is daily playtime, so Mondays, if this is your first time watching or listening to the show, it is a famous quote. So I'm going to read the quote and help Carla get this answer, folks. All right, quote. Here we go. All politicians have baggage. It's just that some politicians get sky caps to carry their baggage. I have to carry my own. End quote.
Jimmy Carter. No? Okay.
It's a black person.
Oh, Barack Obama.
No.
Marion Washington.
No.
Was he named Marion Washington? Booker.
No.
Oh, the gentleman that passed away this summer.
No.
John Lewis.
I'll give you a hint. From New York.
Oh, you said he's black though. No, he's married to a black woman. Black politician in New York. Because I was going to say de Blasio, but he's not black. He just likes black. I don't know.
All right, I'll read it one more time. Quote, help her out, folks. Quote, all politicians have baggage. It's just that some politicians get sky caps to carry their baggage. I have to carry my own. End quote.
Black politician from New York. Not Cory Booker?
Not politician, political figure. Cory Booker, New Jersey.
Oh, then Al Sharpton?
Oh, time. Hey.
I was thinking politician, but then you said political figure. Hello?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. But Al Sharpton, the Reverend Al Sharpton, that is who that quote belongs to. And an interesting last week in the United States as it pertains to their election between the incumbent, President Donald Trump and the former Vice President Joe Biden. So very, very interesting times in these United States of America politically.
This guy gave me a giggle. I can't remember who it was, but he said, just two old guys fighting, and I thought about you. I laughed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's right, though. It's true. I mean, it reminds me of, like, what's the guy named? Mr. Wilson and Dennis the Menace? Like it's like having two Mr. Wilsons up there arguing over things that they're not going to do for people. That's it. What you got for inspiration, Carla?
The struggles we endure today will be the good old days we laugh about tomorrow. Aaron Lauritsen.
All right. That is a good one. So I just want to let people know we do have Inspector Charlene Thompson coming on tomorrow to discuss road safety. We can't forget, obviously, we had tragedies due to violence this weekend, and prior week, we actually had 2 road deaths very close to one another. So we want to keep the conversation open and going. So Inspector Charlene Thompson will be on for that conversation tomorrow. What is this about? What's Joe Biden is from Delaware about?
Oh, I think they were probably trying to contemplate who was who. Because you said from New York, so maybe they were just having banter. I don't know.
You said Joe Biden was from New York?
I never said Joe Biden, but I'm saying maybe in the comments they were discussing names. I don't know.
I don't know what that's in regards to. But no, he's actually from Scranton, Pennsylvania, but he is based in Delaware politically. So a good week to come, some important conversations. Any final words before we head out, Carla?
Yes, actually, we are looking to continue our Sons of Paradise series. So if you know someone who would like to be a part of the show, please reach out to us at engage@thedailyhour.com.
All righty. I just want to say, after the weekend we had, I want to encourage people to have important conversations with young people. One of the things I said yesterday, and I used Carla as an example, I'm not going to buy into this U.S. propaganda of soccer mom. She's the mother of young football players. And, she is ingrained in it. She's there, and she even when she was in Bermuda, she was on the executive. And I spoke about how important it is to, when you're looking to place your children in certain clubs, you want to make sure that you do your research on the club, the coaches, and ensure that this is a space you want your children to be in. Things like that. We spoke of mentorship. We began this show by talking about, working 2 jobs, being away from family time. There are so many things that we can do individually and collectively to fix the tragedies that happen in our community. So let's continue to have conversations that bring about solutions and bring about a safer and better Bermuda. All right. So on that note, you know what time it is. We appreciate you. We love you. And we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow.
Thanks for tuning in to The Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House. All recorded episodes and highlights can be found at thedailyhour.com. Stay connected with us by following us at The Daily Hour on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.